Welcome to 33 Founders, a series about founders of the coolest startups. Brought to you by 33 Voices and hosted by Chase Jennings and Jenna Abdul.
So I'm Bob Morgan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SportStream. We provide a platform for companies and businesses, teams, leagues, sports media companies across the sports landscape to really harness the growing amount of content, just the explosive amount of content in social media that's going on, especially at game time. So we find the best tweets, Facebook posts, Instagram photos and videos, really content of any type that's being published while a game is in progress and keeping fans up to date with their favorite teams. We find all that and we build custom experiences for all these players across the sports landscape.
Awesome, and you mentioned that a lot of it is platform, so you have athletes and different sports teams coming to you and they use your service to get everything from their Twitter account to their Instagram to come to one place for the fans. And I am a die-hard Redskins fan, and I've got to have SportStream for this season. If I got Mike Shanahan on the phone with us right now, Bob, how would you pitch him and say, hey, you got to get it to SportStream for the Skins?
Well, I tell them, you have millions of fans out there that are watching your game, they're tweeting, they're interacting on Facebook, they're following you so actively, and it's really hard for them to follow these days, all that different activity and really to have that communal experience around your team. And really, SportStream, that's what we do. We filter it down to here's the best content for every single game. So while they're watching that Redskins game, whether it's they want to talk trash with other fans, they want to see what talking heads are saying, really following that commentary and distill it down to here's everything about this game and really nothing else so they can focus on the game. There's really no better way than to use a SportStream experience. And that's what we think teams like the Redskins and other teams around the NFL should be doing. And the Seahawks are doing it, so Mike, you should really have the Redskins doing it too.
We should. We lost to them in the playoffs, so we should.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that was a nice one.
Yeah, and it's true for anyone who doesn't have a set. Make sure you pick it up. It's pretty awesome. So, Bob, let's go back to the start. When you're entering a space with huge players like ESPN, what did you know you had to do to be different to make SportStream really make your mark?
Yeah, well, really, I've been working, just a little bit of personal background, I've been working on social platforms, early instant messaging, early photo sharing, really early social web products for a long time, about 13 years. And as I watched the evolution of these social platforms, one of the things I obviously took notice of was the just explosive amount of content around sports, and again, especially at game time. And when I looked at the traditional media landscape, what I saw was, obviously really great content before and after games, but during games, they really weren't harnessing all this conversation, everything from big, well-known national writers, beat writers, to the fan voice, just wasn't really well reflected in traditional media experiences around sports. So I thought, and I really truly believe that the next generation of media companies, these real-time content platforms, that's where the discussion is happening, that's where the news is breaking. So I thought there was a great opportunity to harness and really take that content and shape it in a way that really appealed to sports fans. So, and frankly, we started out as an app experience and, thought we would enter this market and really tackle that opportunity by taking on some of the big sports media companies. And along the way, what we found out was that a lot of those sports media companies were thinking the same way and had those aspirations. And so rather than compete with them over time, what we found is that there were a lot of business development opportunities to partner with them. So, we've started partnering with sports media companies, publishers, the teams and leagues like we talked about. And so we shifted the business, somewhere in the middle of our journey here and really built out this platform, and embraced the notion that other companies were seeing it this way and they really liked our innovation.
Absolutely, and I'd love to talk about for a moment those partners, and whether it's us or the Seattle Seahawks, you guys have really big partnerships in only 1 year. Can you tell us the process of making those partnerships? Is there something you tell yourself before you walk into a meeting?
Yeah, my background personally has largely been in doing business development for a lot of different tech companies, both startups and big tech players. And so, one of the things I'm always thinking about is, what value is it that we're bringing to the table, or how can we help this player with our innovation. So whether that's another startup that is interested in using our technology, or some of the biggest players in sports, guys like the Seahawks, what is it that they're trying to do for their fans? And so we spent time, before we really embraced the platform strategies, making sure we understood what is it that these companies, whether it's a media company or a big, pro team, what is it that they want to deliver to fans, and make sure that our platform reflects that in what we deliver. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about that, talking to potential customers and partners, and really evolve the platform to fit those needs. So it's not so much of what do I think about just before I go in the meeting. I mean, it's really, I think you want to listen and understand what is the market needs, make sure that matches what your vision is, and then go out and execute and deliver on that. And I think the reflection of the adoption that we're getting now is a reflection of that process.
All right, now I want to talk a little bit more about the Seahawks here, because owner Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, is one of the biggest believers in your company. So,
right.
I mean, what's that relationship like? What have you learned from him?
Yeah, well, Mr. Allen and the team at Vulcan, they're very supportive of the company. Obviously there's a big investment and passion for sports there at Vulcan. And so I think our team has a very distinct background in terms of the technology that we apply, semantic technology, using natural language processing, machine learning, to do all this filtering and understanding what's being discussed in social media or on real-time content platforms, which is also an area of technology where there's historical investment from Vulcan and Vulcan Capital. So I think in that relationship, we really have a couple of different areas that resonated with the team at Vulcan, and so our application of advanced technology and doing it directly in a vertical like sports was a perfect fit. And for me, sports in particular, for this technology, it wasn't just we're passionate, we're diehard fans, which of course we are, but there's some really interesting attributes to sports. So people don't time shift; they watch these games live. That's really interesting to marketers. The passion is there from the fans. The appetite for information is huge. 24 million tweets during a Super Bowl should tell you something about the interest level in sports and the intersection of technology and social media in particular. So, all of those things, I think, for us, made it a very obvious vertical to focus on, and a great fit for a backer like Paul Allen and the team at Vulcan.
Absolutely. And Bob, you once shared in an article, if you make material interesting and you give people access to it without them having to make an effort to go seek it out, everything kind of comes to them easily, they'll respond and engage to it. And I'd love to know from you, I think today we all want to have a call to action, but as you said, we're more excited to contribute when no one is directly cold calling us and saying, what do you think? When I see a great tweet about the Redskins, I respond just because I want to. How do you think that not only SportStream or sports companies, other companies can give their users a big call to action like that?
Well, one of the ways I think about that, I think we have the benefit of partnering with teams and leagues where there is an inherent affinity for that brand, for that community. And so there actually is a fairly straightforward path, I think, when we present these types of experiences where, yes, we make it very easy to consume content, like the best content that's being shared during a game or even in between games, getting great updates. If a team promotes something to their fans, like, hey, this is something, here's how you can follow, here's how it can be closer to the team and the action, there's inherent interest in that. And that was part of the strategy in those types of partnerships. I think one of the things that we will probably do more and have started to release in our new experiences for this season is how do you engage fans within that experience? So, is there a particular hashtag that you want your fans to tweet to show their support? Is there a particular hashtag where you want them using that with their Instagram photos, and that could potentially be displayed on the big screen in the stadium or on the second screen experience that we're providing or in an application. So these ways of how do you bring fans closer to the experience, and really that helps keep them engaged, not just consuming content, but really giving them a voice and putting a spotlight on the fans. What are they doing in that parking lot before the games, having fun? And I think there's some real business reasons to do that too. I think that for teams, and leagues, they really want to show off that there's nothing like being present at the game, and having the fans show that to their friends that are watching it on their flat screen at home is a great way to market the game and being, a live game and actually being there.
Awesome. So you guys are a little over a year old, and you've just extended your platform to include huge partners like Stanford, Oregon. So coming from a young entrepreneur, how do you capitalize on huge growth like that? Because it seems like it's hard to get started, but once you have one partnership, I mean, does it make it easier to get the others?
It does, and the way that evolved for us is we did start working, with teams like the Seahawks last football season. We saw a number of, it was interesting, we saw fans of the Seahawks that work for other sports organizations like the team at Michigan. So the Michigan Athletic Department, they saw we were doing the Seahawks, and we actually started interacting on Twitter ourselves. So, they were complimentary, we responded, we actually started a discussion, and that blossomed into a really terrific partnership. And from there, we really started building things to try to make it very easy for us to syndicate that out or extend that out to other teams versus one-offs that, were cumbersome and hard to build. So everything with our platform is designed to be able to extend this out to many partners. They can customize it, they can really make it their own, but the whole platform, the idea was, how do we scale it? How do we keep our team small and lean, but be able to serve lots of big partners and create custom experiences for us? So that's part of the IP and the technology that we developed. But to answer your question, once we got Michigan on board, I think a lot of people looked to them as a thought leader, and it started to become dominoes. During basketball season for NCAA basketball, we got a bunch of partners on board, and a lot of those athletic departments started to say, well, we can't wait until football season. And then I think when they start, and they all talk to each other, and I think as they start sharing and comparing notes about what are the great tools or platforms to work with, we come up, and that has made our jobs certainly a lot easier. So there is certainly momentum, especially within each sport, where we get some thought leadership, adoption, and then it really does snowball from there. And I think that's what we're seeing for college football season with all the partners you mentioned and many more.
So without any of those partnerships, what do you think the one best trick is to get your foot in the door?
Well, number one, I think there's nothing like a warm introduction in any sort of business relationship to get it started. So if there's some validation or something where you actually can get connected personally to the other side, that's hugely important to get the ball rolling. And then I'd say the second thing is what I mentioned earlier, is really going in with an understanding as best you possibly can. Research what they've done in the past, trying to understand or talk to other people, around the industry before you go into a key meeting or discussion to try to understand needs. And then when you get into that meeting, listen as much as you pitch. I think a lot of people get into, and I made this mistake early on in my career, here are my talking points, I'm going to sell and pitch. Versus having a conversation, really understanding what someone needs. And we're learning more and more, there's very sophisticated organizations, in these athletic departments and the pro teams, and they think very critically about their business and how they want to drive it. And we want to make sure that we're being very attentive to those needs and the way that they think about these things.
Another thing about the NCAA, with that really exciting announcement of how many new teams you guys are partnering with, is you said the best thing with 5 of the top 10 teams in the country using SportSpace, I like our chances at a national championship.
Yeah, I really do. And I think now actually we have the better part of the top 25. So those odds are increasing. And I think as the season wears on, as other people, if they want to join us, the closer we can get to 100% certainty, it makes me happy. For a lot of reasons.
On that note, Bob, this past year has been incredible for you guys. Where do you want to be this time next year?
I think this time next year, my goal for the platform is that we're really interwoven into the fabric of digital sports experiences. So it's really great to see the momentum we're getting with collegiate football, getting our foot in the door with NFL teams. We already have a number of NBA and NHL teams on board that we're not ready to announce, but there's already good traction there. And we do have these sports media and sports publisher relationships in place and more developing. So I really think being interwoven into the modern sports experience for these digital platforms is the perfect place for us to be. So I really would like to grow there and be powering these really vibrant, synchronous experiences. that really are a nice combination between the best of social media and conversation, as well as more interesting and interactive statistical types of experiences, and really leaping forward that that fan experience. So I'd like to be thought of as the leader in that area, and the reflection being that we're interwoven into all these different experiences being provided by media companies and teams and leagues.
I really believe that you guys will be there, and I just want to know, personally, Bob, did you have, today, like you said, the app space is so crowded, so many different things are going on, and so you guys made that pivot to be a platform, and the success has been immense. Was there a moment where, maybe in the beginning, did you just have a gut feeling this is a great idea? Did you know it would be this well responded to, or were you like, I'm just going to go for it and see?
You mean in terms of the development toward a platform?
Yeah, when you decided to pivot.
Yeah, I think even when we got the company started, we started by building the platform, the intelligence, underneath the apps. And I had the team do that in a way where even the apps were using our API. So I think even initially I had the inkling of, and this was maybe based off of scar tissue of previous companies that were too married to a specific app or one-off experiences and didn't have flexibility or couldn't be nimble. I just wanted our options to be available to us. And I just think that's a modern way to do things. And so we started off with that. So we knew that opportunity would be there if partners came. And also probably because of my background in business development, I knew I'd probably want to start partnering and be flexible about it. But there was, I would say earlier this year, very early part of this year, the inkling came when I started to get that interest. I'd either take meetings or get inbound interest around, hey, we use the app and it's terrific. We're interested in delivering this kind of experience. And the real inkling is when a number of people told me, like, we tried to build this kind of an experience and we failed, or it's messy, or it's just not working. Can you help us? You hear that enough times, and it's like you get a lot of confidence you're going in the right direction.
That's awesome. And so my last question for you, Bob, is what is your favorite sports team, and are they on board? My favorite sports team, so I was born the day the Oakland A's won the World Series, so I'm a lifelong Oakland A's fan. We aren't working with any MLB teams yet, and we're hopeful that maybe at some point we would work with MLB. My favorite NBA team, I'll keep it to myself. It looks like they will be on board. So stay tuned on that. So my batting average is pretty good.